2 weeks away. This is crazy great. Give me your assessment and how you look at the Eagle cornerback position room right now before I get started. Tell me. How do you look at their corners going into 2023? I've got a synopsis on about 4 of them. And I'll say this again to you guys, and I said this yesterday. I'm getting more of an appreciation for the roster having going over these position rooms more on a positive note that I think you are a little deeper than you are. I didn't think you were. And there's question marks, but I'm getting a better sense of the roster, except for special teams. So I'm getting a better sense, okay, that you're a little better in the depth department than I thought you were. Okay? I think you're better. Eagles, I think they may use Keeley Ringo at safety potential next year. Second behind Miami, Jalen Ramsey and the other guy on the side. I think Miami does have some pretty good corners. I think Dallas's corners with Stephon Gilmore and Diggs, I think they're in that conversation too. Hey, I'll tell you this. The Jets corners, they may have the best corners in the league. I think the Jets, they're young, but I think that the Jets, according to Pro Football Focus, have 2 top 10 cornerbacks. And so their room, in my opinion, looks pretty good too. The Jets look like they have some pretty good corners up there. All right. Let's start it with Darius Slay. And I'm looking at the Eagles cornerback room, 2023, as we're 2 weeks away from the start of camp. Darius Slay. Darius, and talking with Kevin Colbert, Darius Slay has been an absolute pro in Philly since he come over from Detroit. He's been a great player. Pro Bowls, All-Pro. Overall, his time in Philly, he has been and lived up and exceeded expectations. He's got awesome hands. He got nicked up a little bit last year, I thought, especially towards the end of the season, which may have hampered him a little. I thought he ran out of gas a little bit. Now, here's the one thing that I think why you have a problem with Matt Patricia and with Darius Slay. Matt Patricia doesn't see Darius Slay as a man cover corner. He sees him more of a zone cover corner. And that was the rub in Detroit. You got to remember something. In New England, they don't play really a lot of zone. They play man cover. They're a man cover defensive football team. That's been a mantra of theirs since Belichick has been a coordinator when he was with the New York Giants. That's something that he believes in. Again, paying a guy $15 million to play center field, I mean, that's what you're asking him to do. He really does make good plays. And he's not the most physical guy on the planet, but he's a pro, and he knows how to kind of move guys around back there. He doesn't get confused that bad out there. I think some of the defensive play calling put him in a bad position last year, especially in the Super Bowl, that kind of saw him not look his best. And I think that was more on the defense than anything else. And that was more on Gannon's play calling. Okay. To me, again, the reason he was traded from Detroit is because he couldn't play man coverage in Detroit. That was the rub. And that's why Slay has an ass with Patricia, because Slay obviously probably thinks he can play man coverage, but he was never or rarely asked a year ago to play man coverage. This year, Desai has got to decide whether or not they're going to play a little man coverage. They played very little a year ago, but they didn't have to. You're not going to play zone coverage against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. You're not. This is another reason why Patricia was brought in. He's a man cover corner guy. He believes in man. If you leave that zone, I don't know if you agree, But if you leave that zone coverage open underneath with inexperienced linebackers, the quarterbacks you're playing this year will eat you alive if you don't get home. You can't leave the middle of the field. How did the Super Bowl look in the fourth quarter? If you have a guy playing center field and no backers that can cover, you're in trouble. Because this year, that's why Dak eats you up. Dak eats the Eagles up because he knows they can't cover. You can't. Dak had his worst year and threw 5 touchdowns against the second-ranked defense in the league because of the style of play. Okay? So you're going to have to get home. Last year they did. This year it's better teams. And that's a great take right there, Greasy. Slay's got to be more, he's got to be more consistent throughout the entire week. Okay? And he's got to be consistent all season long for them to be really good this year. James Bradberry was your most consistent. And speaking of that, cornerback of the season. Awesome hands and feet. He had a better season, I thought, than Darius Slay. He can be turned around a little bit back there. I thought one of the most disappointing things I saw in the Super Bowl with him, how much Andy Reid confused him with Juju Smith-Schuster and some of them other guys. He got turned around in the game. And especially on them wheel routes, he was getting turned around. And they were finding the open spot in the zone. The receivers were open. And he was getting turned around. But Bradberry's a good player. He is. But he can be turned around a little bit. I think he's more physical. And I actually like the player. I think the Giants made a tragic mistake letting this guy go. He can play, man. He's a good football player. What's you guys' take on Avante Maddox? I'll give you mine here in a minute. And I had a pro personnel guy tell me about him. What do you guys make of Avante Maddox? He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. What do you make of Avante Maddox? What do you think of him? Okay. What do you make of Avante Maddox? What do you think of him? Yale goes, I like him. He gets hurt a lot. Maddox is a beast. Maddox is steady. Best tackler corner we have, in my opinion. Bradberry is way better than Slay and knows how to tackle, unlike Slay. Less productive. Tyrone Matthew, a honey badger, gets nicked up. Mateo loves his hybrid role. Here's my takeaway, and you guys tell me if you agree or disagree. Talking about 3 people, I asked them to give their evaluation on him. Then I watched him a little bit, and I watched him on YouTube, and then I watched him on a couple 22s. And here was my takeaway. He's quick. He's explosive. He's a little guy. He's got short arms. He's not going to be involved in a ton of interceptions. He's just a little guy. And those short arms prohibit him from really being a great corner when you've got to get punches on some of these electric wide receivers like Justin Jefferson. He'll never be a starter because his arms are too short. And when you're small and you're a smaller frame guy, hey, by the way, he's explosive. He's quick. He's a quick twitch guy. All of that is true. He's an athlete. Absolutely. But his physical attributes don't help him at that position. Okay? They just don't. The guys he's always going to get beat on 50-50 jump balls. Okay? He will always be beat because it's a physical mismatch when you're looking at Avante Maddox. Now, is he good enough to be on the team? Absolutely. Is he good in depth? Absolutely. Do you put him in special teams? Absolutely. Does he belong in a 53-man roster? Absolutely. But does he belong in a starting 11? Absolutely not. Because he can't hang with these wide receivers in today's NFL. A guy like DeAndre Hopkins would eat that guy up. He could be the faster guy. He could be the quicker guy. But he's not going to outjump him. A.J. Brown would destroy him in a game. He's just not big enough. And that's his downfall, is that he just wasn't made big enough. It's just his physical attributes prohibit him from being a star player. Okay? He's good. Now, would you try to move him around depth-wise, try him a little bit at free safety, put him back there a little bit, put him in a slot maybe? He's just, again, when it comes to jump balls, if I'm a quarterback, I'm going to target him. And I'm going to put my number one on him, and I'm going to throw the ball up. And he's not going to beat that wideout. The two wide receivers on the Eagles would kill that guy in coverage. Would kill him. Anybody that they play against, he's going to be attacked if he's a starter. And again, he's a good athlete. He's a good player. He's a good tackler. But when it comes to jump balls and covering the elite guy, dude, you know where you put Avante Maddox? You put him on the second wideout, third wideout maybe. You don't put him on the one because he's not covering CeeDee Lamb. He's not. And again, you guys know what I think of CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb's a good player. I think he's above average. I think he's like right there at the bottom of the 10 spot. Would I take Devontae Smith over CeeDee Lamb? I don't know. Maybe not, depending on how I'm feeling that day and how well the players are playing. I think it's that close. I think one week you could pick Devontae. I think the next week you could pick CeeDee, whatever you wanted. So I think they're 10. They're right there at 10. And those two guys would kill him in a game. Just throw the ball up. So Maddox is good in depth. That's how I see him. Okay? He's a quick dude, man. And again, explosive to the receiver. Jump balls, he's not getting it, though. It's not happening. Keeley Ringo. And again, we're looking at the cornerback room for the Eagles as we're 15 days out from training camp here. And Keeley Ringo, here's what I look at with Keeley Ringo. Strong, physical, and you know what he's really great at when you watch him? He's really great at the catch point. He's really great when both guys go up. And you know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you what I think makes him and separates him a little bit more from other guys that were drafted this year. He's very aware where he is when he's in the air. He knows where he is close to the sidelines. You see him doing it in the game and going up. So he's got great presence and field awareness when he's in the middle of the catch point. He knows where he's doing. I can't tell you how athletic that is. For you to know where you are on the sideline, look up, go here, and to know that whether or not the ball is going to be an overthrow where you have to be a defender or whether you have to bring your other hand up. Because you know what happens when you bring your other hand up? There's a chance the ball goes over your head. Guy catches and takes it in for 6. That's a gamble. And he's got really good field presence where he is at catch point. That's an important asset to have. Okay? It's important to have that. He's outstanding on 50-50 balls. And what you love about this kid, he played in the Southeastern Conference. So he's gone against Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Judy, all these guys. He's played against them all. He's practiced against elite guys. The kid Pickens at Georgia, all these guys that are stars in the NFL from the SEC, he's played against them. So already I know the competition level that he's played against already, he's had success against some of the elite wide receivers that were in college. And as Callie said, the guy runs a 4.3. He's outstanding on 50-50 balls in the air. Outstanding. Like, my opinion, Keeley Ringo, if Slay starts to fade, I'd start slipping him in there. I'd start putting his butt in there and getting some reps out there. Now, you got to remember something, though. If you put Ringo in at CB1, he's going against Jefferson's. He's going against the Diggses up in Buffalo. He's going against those kind of players. And he's going against the Jalen Waddles and the Tyreek Hills. So you put him in that position, he better be ready because that'll be on the coaching. If they put him at CB1 and all of a sudden he's lining up against Justin Jefferson in week 2, dude, I don't know if I want to put him in that position yet. Okay? I don't know if I want to put him in that position. Maybe I'd put him in for Bradberry a little bit, move Bradberry over to 1. And you see, if Slay gets hurt, I'm moving Bradberry to 1, and I'm going to bring Keeley up to 2 because I don't want him lining up against the 1 guys yet. Now, if his play starts to get to a point where he's the better looking corner, then you make that move. But I want to get him matriculated into the league, and having him going against some of these elite wide receivers this year, I don't want him to get into a position where he all of a sudden is not practicing technique and he's going against veteran wideouts. CeeDee Lamb's on him too. You got a bunch of really great wide receivers this year that you got to play against. Okay? And I agree with Yale. The only time I'm putting him on CB1 is that there's massive injuries at the cornerback position. He's athletic as hell. Now, here's the only problem that Keeley Ringo has. He's not real flexible in his hips, which means this. Like when you're turning and you watch some of these cornerbacks that know how to get back in a back pedal, his back pedal is not the hottest. So his flexibility to get back into coverage will be something to think on. Now, if I'm Andy Reid and I know this and I watch it early in the game and I watch that this guy can't get back into his position quick enough, I'm going to do a lot of 3-step drop on him. And I'm going to try to do quick hitches on him to see how he responds to it. And if he can cover, then good. Okay, that's good for the Eagles. If he can't, that'll be a problem for him in his career until he improves on that. So he's got to get a little bit better in his hips. And that's turning back to get back to your position. So, that was a scouting report thing. And when you watch him on film, you see it. So can he get better at it? I think more reps. I think more flexibility, more training. I think you can work on that. I don't know if he'll ever be, because that's an athletic movement. So he just looks like a big muscle guy sometimes playing a cornerback position. I would not have a problem if they felt this. Why don't we put him at free safety? He's big enough. He's quick enough. He's a hitter. He's athletic. If you want to move him to free safety, that's not out of the realm of possibilities that you could put him in a free safety spot. Okay? So I'm kind of good with that. And he's somebody that I would think about depending on how he looks and how it is when he's covering somebody. So here, all in all, the Eagle cornerback room, you think that could be why Howie hasn't pulled the trigger on a safety move yet? I think that's exactly why. Because I think they see him. See, I think they look at Avante Maddox and they look at Keeley Ringo and go like this. Well, Maddox isn't the best and biggest guy, but do you think we can get away a couple weeks having him back there if there were an injury? I think they think that. And by the way, like I said, quick, explosive. Who knows what a guy, even with limited physical ability, can do at a cornerback position when given more reps? See, that's the key to this thing, is more reps. Avante could go into this year, and with all the physical disabilities that he has, going against some of these ones, at the end of the day, he's still explosive, he's fast, and he's athletic. You just maybe more reps helps him, if you follow me here. And Ringo, you slide him over to safety. See, I think you're going to probably put Keeley Ringo in a safety position at some of these organized team practices. And I think they're also going to do that in some of the exhibition games. I think you're going to see him at both corner, and I think you're going to see him at free safety. Because I think they look at him and Keeley and go, can you imagine this if you got a starting free safety in the third round and you just moved them over? Again, that's scouting, that's development, that's looking at the player, where he fits best to give us the best opportunity for success. That's also going to be up to Sean Desai and also going to be up to Matt Patricia, how they see him. Do they look at Keeley Ringo right now and see him and Sidney Brown as their future free and strong safety? Do you look at Sidney Brown and Keeley Ringo as the future safeties of the Eagles? I think that's a debate. I think that's a debate. Now, you get paid more at corner. We all know that. So the players probably still want to play the corner position. Sidney's the safety. Now, do you go like this? Are these two guys my future at free and strong? It could be a debate. Here's what my takeaway is of the group. I think it's a really good group. Okay? Limited physical, but not athletic with Maddox. Ringo is somebody that could be important to the future of the team. Bradberry, consistent. Slay on the back nine. Can you get one more year out of him? I think so. All in all, I would say this to you, that the Philadelphia Eagles have the best cornerback room in the National Football League. I mean, their room, I would put that they would have the best with depth and with star corners. You clearly have the best cornerback room in the NFC East. You clearly, in my opinion, have the best cornerback room in the NFC. The Jets, the Dolphins, in my opinion, I would put the Cowboys still below you. But I would say that the best cornerback rooms are Miami, the Jets, and I would say the Eagles. And I would put it this way. There's better teams this year. There's better receivers. That Dolphin room is played. Again, you got to remember, Jalen Ramsey was destroyed last year. Then he was hurt. He had the worst coverage of any corner last year. Is he out of gas? Yet to be determined. Yet to be determined. Okay? I think the Eagles have the best cornerback room. I didn't say defensive backfield. I said cornerback room. Okay? So that to me tells me that they're going to get a lot of production. But I still think they got to get home. They still have to get home. I think Kansas City's coming up as well. Kansas City's corners, they're very young. They're rookies. And they're coming up. And they're getting better. All right, hour number 2. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.